Welcome back. Next, let's take a look at saving and loading KDB tables, which is a very common practice you might do. So first of all, how to save KDB data? We simply use the set keyword, and this keyword is a dyadic function. It takes two inputs, the first one being the file path as a handle, so we'll need that leading colon in there, we need it as a symbol, and that's going to be where we want to store our data. And the second input is the data itself. So let's create some sample table called trade, and we ran here with the file path out in front, and we said set trade, and you see what's returned here is the name of the file upon success. So if we head up a level, we see we now have this trade table. It was created just seconds ago, and if I click on that, I can't see it because it's actually a binary file, so we can't see the data itself, but that's how we save it down. So we'll learn how to read that binary format in just a minute, but first I just want to also mention you can amend tables and get the same result. So remember in our lists module we had this way of amending lists, and we could use the dot amend, and we also had the at symbol amend, and that would let us amend a list. So if we just go back and think about that again, so remember we had our lists, say we did 1, 2 and 3, and then we save that, and then if we do, first of all, using the at amend, we could pass the list, and then we pass the indexes we wanted to change. So if we say at the first index and we want to reassign that, so we put a colon and we make it 55, for example, we get our list returned, and this first index here has been changed to 55. And then remember with dot amend, we tried to use dot amend, that didn't work. So remember dot amend was for a nested list. So if we did 100 and 200 here, for example, and run this, and then we did that, we could do amending at depth, we called it. So I'm going to my index of 1 here, which is this one here. So remember this is 0, 1, and then I'm going to that one here, which is 55, and changing that. Okay, so if we just showed so 200 here was changed to 55. So we're doing exact same principle here, except when we do it with a file path, we need to use the dot version. And what this is really doing is when we have, say we have that table existing on disk already. So for example, if we had a trade table with a price column, so if we did this and we passed the file path, we could do, say it was in a folder called database, and we did trade, and then we might do the price column, for example. We could pass the index we want to change. So if that was the first row, we pass 0, colon, and we could pass the price that we want to make it. So if we wanted to make it something different here, that's how we would amend the column. So it's really just pulling that column back as a list. So it's very same principle here. Now, if the file doesn't exist, and in this example here, we're passing in an entire table, it's going to create it for us. So we don't have anything called modify disk at this point up here. And if we run this, let me just refresh, you see we now have this binary file with some KDB data in it. And then if we ran the same thing again, except instead of reassigning, we want to append. So we're going to use colon here. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, and then if we run it again, we get the file path returned again. And we can't really tell anything's changed there, which we will in a second when we load it back in. Okay, so that's how we can save KDB data down. So you can either use the set command, or just note you might see this used in places which this dot amend function does it by default when it doesn't already exist. So have a go at this exercise, saving down this table. So have a go with this exercise. So create this table and then save it down as a flat file. And then we'll look at loading KDB data back in. So I mentioned by default it's in a binary file format, so we can't really see what it is. So simply all we have to use is the get keyword, and it just takes one parameter, which is the file path. So if I run get on trade table, I get that nicely back in as the same trade table as I had above. And then if I run get on modify disk at this point, I get the 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we added something else to that, so if we add 5 and we run get again on this, you'll see we have the 5 now added in. Okay, And if you did run get and you didn't know and the file didn't exist, you'll get this result returned. So no such file or directory. So you'll usually have something wrong with your file path here, or maybe you're missing file. So you can go check that out and adjust it as required. Okay, so that's how we save and load KDB data. Pretty straightforward. Try this exercise here on loading data back in using get, and then I'll see you in the next video.